13-year-old Maya woke up that Tuesday morning with a familiar heaviness in her chest. Something felt off. Her throat scratched when she swallowed, and her head felt foggy like she was breathing through cotton. But it was subtle enough that she convinced herself it was just seasonal allergies acting up again. After all, she had a history test that day she couldn't afford to miss. The walk to her first period classroom felt longer than usual. Each step seemed to require more effort, and by the time she slid into her desk, a dull ache had settled behind her eyes. The fluorescent lights felt harsh and unforgiving, making her squint as she tried to focus on her teacher's words about the Revolutionary War. As the morning progressed, Maya's body began betraying her in ways she couldn't ignore. Her nose became completely congested, forcing her to breathe through her mouth. Dizziness washed over her in waves, making the classroom spin slightly each time she turned her head. Her muscles ached like she'd run a marathon, and an overwhelming fatigue settled into her bones. The familiar warning signs were all there. She was getting sick, and she could feel a fever building just beneath the surface. During the break between classes, Maya gathered her courage and made the trek to the nurse's office. The hallways seemed to stretch endlessly, and she had to pause twice to steady herself against the lockers. When she finally reached the small medical office, she explained her symptoms to the school nurse, Mrs. Patterson, a middle-aged woman with graying hair and wire-rimmed glasses. "I'm feeling really sick," Maya said, her voice hoarse and weak. "I'm dizzy, my whole body hurts, and I think I might have a fever coming on." Mrs. Patterson barely looked up from her paperwork as she reached for the thermometer. After a quick temperature check, she shook her head dismissively. "No fever," she announced curtly. "Come back if it gets worse." The words felt like a door slamming shut, leaving Maya standing there feeling invalidated and confused. Defeated but hopeful that maybe she really was overreacting, Maya dragged herself back to class. But her condition only deteriorated. The aches intensified until even sitting in her chair became uncomfortable. Her head pounded with each heartbeat, and the stuffiness made it nearly impossible to concentrate on anything her teachers were saying. She felt like she was watching the world through a thick, distorted lens. By third period, Maya couldn't take it anymore. Her teacher, Mrs. Rodriguez, noticed her pale complexion and glassy eyes. "Maya, honey, you look terrible," she said with genuine concern. "Why don't you go to the front office and call your dad?" The walk to the administrative office felt like climbing a mountain. Maya's legs felt like lead, and she had to grip the wall for support. When she reached the office, the secretary took one look at her and immediately offered her a chair. Maya's dad, who worked from home, answered on the first ring and agreed to come pick her up without hesitation. "Go wait in the nurse's office while your dad drives over," the secretary instructed kindly. Back in the medical office, Maya slumped into the uncomfortable plastic chair and looked at Mrs. Patterson with exhausted, bloodshot eyes. "I called my dad and I'm going home," she said, her voice flat and drained of energy. Mrs. Patterson finally looked up from her computer, really looked at Maya this time. The girl's eyes were red-rimmed and watery. Her face was flushed despite claiming no fever earlier, and she was practically swaying in her seat. Yet somehow the nurse's response was even more dismissive than before. "Well, we're not dismissing you for medical reasons," she said coldly, as if Maya was trying to pull some elaborate scheme. The words hit Maya like a slap. Here she was, clearly unwell, having followed all the proper procedures and still being treated like she was faking it. All she wanted was to go home and curl up in her own bed, away from the harsh lights and constant noise of the school. When her dad arrived, he took one look at his daughter, no medical degree required, and immediately knew she was genuinely sick. Her normally bright eyes were dull and unfocused. Her usually perfect posture had dissolved into a defeated slouch, and her skin had taken on a sickly pallor that no amount of teenage drama could fake. The drive home was a blur for Maya. The next morning, her temperature spiked to 101.5 degrees, validating everything she had felt the day before. She spent the next several days recovering at home, missing nearly a week of school as her body fought off whatever virus had taken hold. When Maya finally returned to classes, she noticed something peculiar. Mrs. Patterson was nowhere to be found. Whether it was coincidence, retirement, or consequence, Maya never saw the dismissive nurse again. The replacement nurse treated students' concerns with compassion and thorough assessment, making Maya wonder how many other sick kids had been sent away by someone who should have been their advocate. Looking back on that day, Maya still wonders if she could have handled it differently. Maybe her tone was a bit sharp when she announced she was going home. Exhaustion and feeling unheard had made her sound more hostile than intended, but the memory of being looked in the eye by a medical professional who refused to see her obvious illness still stings. What do you think about this situation? Have you ever felt dismissed when you knew something was wrong with your body? Should a 13-year-old have to advocate harder for her own health? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below.